Hey YouTube, this is Diaphone, and today we want to talk about when you should wall break in the corner. So wall breaks are a pretty interesting mechanic. When the game first came out, everyone thought you should always wall break because of the attack and defense buff and the crazy amount of meter that you get. But recently, I watched the 15 vs 15 Japan exhibition, and I saw a lot of players were choosing not to wall break in the corner when they could have easily done so. So I wanted to take a look and try to determine when you should wall break and when you shouldn't. And so in this video, we'll look at that and we'll also discuss wall breaks in general. If you guys appreciate the content and you guys are interested in more content like this, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. It really helps out the channel and helps what I do. So yeah, I think in order to discuss wall breaks and when you should wall break, let's first discuss how wall breaks work. Kandeep actually made a post a while ago, described how wall breaks work. I'm not going to go through this. This is very technical, kind of more technical than I want to get. But basically the mechanic is the wall takes damage for every hit that you do. And once the wall has taken enough damage, it breaks, right? And good players, while they don't know the exact values of how much damage some wall hit can take, a lot of the good players know that, hey, if I do this combo, it will wall break. And if I do this other combo, it won't wall break, right? So let me show you guys in training mode what that looks like. I'll give you a very practical example of how I know when to wall break and when not to. So let's say I want to wall break in the corner of Eno. I would do a corner combo like this, right? And you see that wall broke, I got 172 damage. But let's say I don't want to wall break, I go for a route like this. And depending on the situation, sometimes you want to wall break, sometimes you don't. Well, what's the benefits to wall breaking? The main thing is you get a positive bonus, which gives you a crazy amount of meter. So example of how much meter you can get from this. And one other thing to mention, if you wall break with super, you get Oki afterwards. So that's why a lot of people choose to wall break after super, because you can dash up and get a meaty. Or in Eno's case, you can dash up and get a safe jump. So you see how much each hit is giving meter-wise. So you see how potentially strong this is. Not to mention the damage and defense buff that wall break gives you. It's a very powerful tool, and when the game first came out, pretty much everyone was like, hey, I'm gonna wall break all the time, which makes sense because positive bonus is just that good. And then I think one of the first people to play around with not wall break was SQ. SQ had this tweet. So SQ, very strong RAM player, in my opinion, the #1 RAM player in America. He won CLG Burst, which was like a big tournament, probably week 2 of the game, and said, it's funny to me how many people thought I was dropping combos, doing bad routes yesterday when I was purposely dropping to avoid wall break and keep the corner. Opting to not wall break has helped consistency in a lot of matches, and there, she mentions that there's still some inconsistency of like, hey, when should I wall break and when should I not? And I think a lot of people have been realizing that you don't always want to wall break. So let's take an example.
Drop from Dara right there.
So Dara God, we all pray. I pray to Dara every day before I play Eno. Very strong Eno, probably the best Eno in the world.
He had the schmicks, but his button come out, he just stood there and ate something. All
right.
Corner though.
And you see how he gets the corner?
Keeping it.
All right. He could choose to keep the wall or choose not to. So stream, I'm gonna do a poll. Would you break the wall or not? Yeah, I want you guys to vote on it. He can easily break the wall depending on what combo route he chooses. So it's all about whether he wants to break the wall or whether he doesn't. It looks like Dara will build super from this combo, right? The opponent doesn't have burst, the opponent doesn't have meter, so there's all factors you have to take into account. 84% of the chat said yes, but Dara actually chooses not to wall break here.
That's a break. That's a break if he wants it, double.
Right? And even Jayun is like, that's a break if he wants it. And he chooses not to break. Well, look at this whole sequence.
That's a break. That's a break if he wants it. Double over it. Super, that's round.
He took the round off of that. And going for the reset is not always optimal, right? And some people might be thinking, is it really greedy? Well, I don't think it's actually that greedy. You're playing against a character that doesn't have a DP, does not have meter for Y or C, does not have burst, and you have enough health to, survive if they somehow mash out.
That's a break.
You go for very safe offense, which JK safe jump. You can't DP out of that. You could try backdash, but you'll probably get clipped. You go for JD, which the only option there is 6P, and 6P loses to like everything else, right? And then
super, that's round.
That goes into super, and that super's plus on block, so you get another mix-up. So mathematically, it's not actually that greedy, and I think Daru made the right choice here to go for the reset. If he didn't, you have to reset neutral, and there's more potential for Giovanna to make a comeback. So let's look at a couple other examples, because I think that's a very cut and dry. He did the right thing and kept the corner. But think about it, if you're playing a character with DPRC, if you're playing against a character of burst, if you're playing against a character of YRC, those are all factors that make it so you might want to reset because they can get out of your pressure easier, right? All right, do you wall break here? So there's a couple differences, right? Against Axel, you're against Axel, who's hard to get in against. But the other thing to consider is he has burst. So he can burst out of your combo. So even just like a minor factor like burst, let's say you end the combo a little bit early, then he can burst your next attempt if he happens to not get out. So Kendeep is actually in the chat. Kendeep, what would you do here? Would you wall break or would you not? And I'm actually not sure because the burst kind of leaves me a little bit wary. Yeah, it's really tough and really nuanced. I actually do not know the answer. I think personally, I would probably keep him in the corner, but it's pretty tough to say. I don't think there's a right answer. Well, there is a right answer, but it's really hard to figure out. And so Stream says 70% would not wall break here. And that's actually what Kendeep chooses to do. Like he could have done another HCL there, but he really wanted to keep the corner. And see, thankfully he baited the burst, which if you're gonna do this kind of thing, you have to bait the burst, which mathematically makes it worse in your favor. And it worked out, right? Actually, you know what, chat? I got another question for you guys. So the question is, should you always wall break with super? If you have 50 meter, should you use it? And there's obvious situations where you should use it, such for example, if it's gonna kill, then yeah, use the meter. What about some other situations that are a little less unclear? What if the combo is super scaled? If you do a combo to the max scaling like this, it doesn't do that much extra. That did 201, and let's see how much this does. So for that wall break with super, you just spent 50 meter for 23 damage and Oki, right? Is 50 meter worth 23 damage? Just something to think about, right? Because if you know that 50 meter, you can do something like stroke RC and get a mix up, but the Oki's really good, especially with someone like Eno. All right, so the poll said no. Should you always do it? No, right? Yeah, so I think this is a scenario. So if you're Axel, right, and you get the wall break, you get super, you only get 20 extra damage, let's say. What is the Oki gonna do you? You're just gonna back off anyways, or maybe you'll like try to bait out a DP or try to bait out a throw. You're not gonna get as much reward as someone like Eno. And then you have other characters. Let's say you're a Ram player playing against the Leo who has 100% meter, and most likely they're gonna DP RC. Like, hey, maybe you want to reset neutral and try to wall that Leo player out. So like, I think there's some scenarios where it's a little bit sketchy. I think with Eno, generally, you almost always want to do it because she wants to be in your face, right? But for characters that don't want to be in your face, it might not necessarily be worth it. I haven't seen this match, but I already know what it's going to look like. Yeah, so this is a tournament that Bum163 hosts, and there's a matchup between two Leo players, K7 and SonicFox. And they both have very different styles, and they're both two of the best Leos in the country, right? And so this was actually winter finals of the tournament, and K7 likes to wall break all the time. SonicFox chooses not to wall break. And so let's take a look at some of the decision making that they have during this match. So you'll see when SonicFox kind of gets the hit or the initiative, he'll go for a lot of stuff. Yeah, like throw, doesn't necessarily wall break, another throw. And that he had no choice but to wall break, right?
Because the backside, you're not supposed to be able to block or jump. So that's supposed to be the trade-off. But that shit really don't matter.
Yeah, so you see how SonicFox decided to keep the Oki. He could have spent RC meter there and chose not to, right? Bro, this is like the worst match. Oh my god, this is Unga as shit. Alright. Yeah. Yeah, so you see how Sonic's choosing not to wall break here, right? He's just choosing to keep Oki, and that's more of SonicFox's style. Let's see if we can see a K7 match from before this, because it looks like he's getting DP'd RC too much to actually get a wall break. Yeah, he probably will wall break there. Yeah, so you see how he spent the meter there for RC just to wall break. So what's the right answer? Do you spend RC to go for wall break, or do you keep going for mix up? You know, I think it's something that there might not necessarily be a right answer, or there probably is a right answer in certain situations, and it's something that, you know, players will continually need to evolve. So it's just something I want to bring to you guys' attention, and I can't like say when to wall break and when not to 100% of the time. As you can see, two of the highest level players, highest level Leo players, choose a decision making very differently, right? But some of the things you guys should think about when you're thinking about what affects wall breaks, you know, meter, can you super? If you don't have meter to do a super wall break, then it might not necessarily be worth it to wall break, and you might want to do another mix up in order to get the meter. Do you win neutral against the character? So if you win neutral, like let's say you're playing Axel, or you're playing a good matchup where you feel like you can get around stuff easier, then yeah, you might want to wall break more because it resets and you get the extra meter to play around with in neutral. Defensive options the opponent has, like let's say they have DPRC, right? If my opponent's DPRCing, I don't want to risk that next mix up because I might just get screwed over. Think about the opponent's health and your health. If you need to make a pixel comeback, most likely you want to keep the corner, because if you go back to neutral, you're going to get clipped somewhere. And yeah, think about the characters you play, how good's the Oki, and do you need to spend resources, right? You know, spending 50 meter for a wall break's a lot different than getting a meterless wall break. So yeah, I want you guys to think a lot about that. I think hopefully these examples showed you how you should structure your decision making, and also kind of dispelled the notion that you should and always go for wall break, because there's obviously situations where keeping the momentum up or keeping the pressure on the opponent is better than just wall breaking. But guys, if you like the content, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. And if you guys want to see more, please let me know in the comments below. And I also am curious to see your take on some of these situations that we had. If you guys have thoughts on what these Leo players should be doing, the wall break or not wall break, or some of the examples that I showed, let me know your thoughts, and if there's anything else that I missed. Thanks guys, and have a great day.